Jeff, thanks for joining us. What was your takeaway from that media avail?
Yeah, that it was a bit of a surprise. First of all, we put in a request. Look, this is the last practice for the Canucks here in Vancouver for the better part of a couple of weeks, right? They're out on the road, travel day tomorrow, and then a 6-game road trip. So it's going to be a while before we have access to the Canucks. And in that time, hey, Thatcher Demko may return to the lineup. We don't know. After talking to him this morning, still not certain that even he has a date pinpointed in terms of getting back in there. The clip that you will hear in time was him saying, yeah, like practice is great. He's doing everything that he wants to be able to do in practice. But then, as you said, Dave, a little shade at the Sedins. Said that, it's one thing to face shots from Daniel and Henrik. And then he said, like, I'll admit that once the actual teammates got out there and pucks are whizzing, he said things have, sped up considerably. And that's the challenge for him, is to sort of get comfortable. He says he's going to allow himself. And this is a guy that we know from watching him, he understands his role. He knows how good he can be when he's at the height of his game. But he said, like, I have to allow myself a little bit of a cushion here, that it's not probably going to go as smoothly as I want for the first couple of games. And I think that's probably a good approach. I mean, they're not rushing him back, obviously. Whenever he gets that first start, that's going to be terrific news. It's going to be welcome for the Canucks, but it may take him a while to rediscover his powers, and that is as one of the best goaltenders in the National Hockey League. So I kind of like that attitude. He says he's learned so much about the physiology of just the knee and the mechanics of it and all that kind of stuff. So he's smarter through the process here. But ultimately, I mean, everybody wants to know, like, when is that date? And I just don't think that he has that date yet. It's going to be, he's close. And as he said in the clip there, light at the end of the tunnel. So, yeah. But I will say this, guys. I have seen him more involved in practices a week ago than he was in this one. He was one of 3 goaltenders on the ice. They rotated, but last Friday they gave Kevin Lankinen a maintenance day, and Demko was one of 2 netminders, had the net to himself throughout. And so I don't think this is a step back in any way. It's just the factor that they had 3 goaltenders out there. He was one of them, but it wasn't like he had a net to himself for the full 45 minutes of practice.
How would you grade, in Demko's absence, the goaltending that the Canucks have gotten to this point in the season? It's interesting because watching it, it feels like the goaltending has been fine. And yet, when I was looking at the numbers before the Rangers game, the Canucks were bottom 10 as far as 5-on-5 save percentage. And the only team other than Vancouver who was bottom 10 for 5-on-5 save percentage in a playoff spot was Vegas. And it actually got me thinking, okay, maybe we haven't given the Canucks as much credit for the fact that they've still been picking up points here and there, despite not getting stellar goaltending. But how would you grade Vancouver's goaltending in the absence of Demko to this point?
Yeah, and I'll get to that part of the question in a sec. But isn't it interesting that like the Pacific Division really is a bit of a turtle derby right now? Like, nobody has pulled away, and that works to the Canucks' advantage with all this adversity that they're going through, that they're still within striking distance of top spot in the division, even with 9 wins in 18 games. But there's been no separation. It's 5 teams are separated by 3 points. So with that, just that sort of context in mind, look, Kevin Lankinen was an incredible story. They needed him to come in and do what he did early on, but this is a guy that has, not been a legit number one. Really, I mean, you got to go back late in his time in Chicago, but the last 2 years in Nashville didn't even play back-to-back games or back-to-back starts. So, he started 12 of the last 14 games for the Canucks. I think it's understandable that his play has found a level, and it's not as high as it was. Artur Silovs looked good against the Blackhawks. They're the Blackhawks. Context matters, but did what he had to do to get a victory. And, I thought he provided enough goaltending to keep them in that game last night, obviously, but this is the Rangers. It was a step up. And at the end of the night, would you like one more save somewhere along the line? Sure. I mean, it's a 3-3 tie going to the third period. And the guy at the other end, the guy that's asking for close to $12 million a year, he did what he did. And he didn't allow a third period goal. And Artur Silovs, and look, the breakdowns were well before the puck got to him on that 4th goal, but still he gives up the one that turns out to be the game winner. So, it kind of feels like we're back almost to an even in, it's hard to know where the Canucks are with their goaltending in the here and now, but it feels to me like it's much closer of a derby between Silovs and Lankinen than it was 2 or 3 weeks ago when Lankinen looked like he was going to get just about every start, and you weren't sure if Artur Silovs was going to get another opportunity in the National Hockey League. So some of that's credit to Silovs going down to Abbotsford, getting a little confidence, getting a win there, and turning in 2 credible performances since he's gotten back in the National Hockey League. And for Kevin Lankinen, yeah, I mean, on the homestand, I think it was an .850 save percentage. Like, that's not getting it done at the NHL level.
With all that in mind, Jeff, and we don't know when Demko's going to play his first game of the year, this road trip, do you get the sense we're looking more like a 50-50 split between Lankinen and Silovs?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty clear now that they have to reduce the workload on Kevin Lankinen. For a while there, he was all they had. And so I kind of understood where Rick Tocchet and Marco Terenius were coming from. This was a team, Lankinen was playing well, delivering results, and so you're just riding the hot hand, and you didn't have a lot of confidence in Artur Silovs. Again, I think with Lankinen, he's looking more like the kind of goaltender that I anticipated that they were getting when they signed him, and that's the guy that can certainly perform and win at the National Hockey League level. But to expect that he's just going to stand on his head night after night and bail this group out with all the defensive breakdowns that we see on a nightly basis in front of either goaltender, it's just asking too much. So, yeah, I mean, look, there's a back-to-back. You would think that's going to be an automatic split. And then from there, you can sort of build out the road trip and see where it goes. Wouldn't surprise me if they go back to Lankinen to start in Ottawa. It's not as simple as win and you're in, but they can't give Lankinen 5 of the 6 games. Like, the workload is just too much here. So as I sit here today and expecting that both are healthy, and I don't know that we're going to see Demko get a start on this road trip as much as people would like that storyline. I would anticipate 3 starts for each of the incumbents and, sort of see how it goes along the way.
On the back end, is it time to split up Carson Soucy and Tyler Myers?
Yeah, fascinating out here at UBC today before practice. Rick Tocchet, long individual sessions, the old coach one-on-one with both Soucy and Myers. And then at one moment, Soucy and Myers together standing at the whiteboard, just the two of them, no coaching. And I was like, imagine that conversation, to be a fly on that whiteboard, to listen to these two guys as they're standing there looking at the whiteboard. Oh, that's where we're supposed to be. That's what we're supposed to be doing, because it hasn't happened. And yeah, I think we're past that point, Harm. What does that look like? Ultimately, now they go on the road where they don't have last change and they can't shelter guys. So just keep that in mind. And that just adds another sort of layer of complexity to all of this for the Vancouver Canucks. But, you're paying Phil Hronek $7.25. He had a maintenance day today, resting up because they're leaning on him and Hughes an awful lot these days. But it just kind of feels like, yes, it is time to split Myers and Soucy. You look at the Kako goal last night. I know that that's a bad bounce. Nothing's going Carson Soucy's way right now. But, I posted the pic online. At the blue line, as the Rangers enter the Canucks zone, Canucks have 3 guys back. Rangers have 3 on the attack. It's 3-on-3. In the blink of an eye, it becomes a 2-on-1 from the hash marks down. What happened? Where did the defense go? I mean, that's a question that we ask an awful lot. And then on the game winner, Paterson's got to make a tougher play, obviously, in the neutral zone with the puck. And then once he loses it, he kind of gets lost and doesn't really know what to do and allows Kreider to get away from him. But Tyler Myers takes himself out of the play, like he's over on the side boards chasing the hit there. And, the Rangers made it look awfully easy to score that 4-3 goal. So it just feels like a talking point every single game when we do rink wide, when you guys are doing convo. Almost, does a day go by where we're not asking, what in the world do you do with these two guys who seemed relatively low maintenance a year ago and just anything but right now for the Vancouver Canucks?
Last night against the Rangers, Connor Garland played really well on not much sleep. We'll get to that in a second. Elias Pettersson played really well. Those two guys are going to have to step up in the absence of JT. But what did you see today at practice? I know Garland wasn't there. We saw he had his baby boy, named it after Quint. What's his name?
Yeah,
Quint. Okay.
I don't know the spelling of the. A lot of people are, oh, he's named after Quinn Hughes. No, Rick Tocchet was clear. And we know from that summer feature, this guy sharks to the extreme. So I guess this makes it Baby Shark. I'm not going to sing for you, but no, we won't go down that road. Quint apparently is sort of one of the antagonists in Jaws, the shark hunter. So everything about Connor Garland, it seems, is revolves around Jaws, including naming his first son. So yes, well-deserved day off for Connor Garland, who absolutely showed up and showed out last night and scored. And long overdue goal for him. He hadn't scored since Los Angeles. That was a power play goal. He had to go back to the game in Chicago to find his last 5-on-5 goal. In the absence of some of those other goal scorers, it is guys like Garland. It's Jake DeBrusk. DeBrusk has to start scoring here. Let's be honest, 3 goals in 18 games isn't getting it done. I loved Elias Pettersson slashing through the middle of the ice, and then that pass to Kiefer Sherwood off the rush. So Petey has his first 2 assist game. He'd been scoring a lot of goals, but it was nice to see him being the playmaker. And yeah, I mean, those are the guys that they've got here. And even Jonathan Lekkerimäki. And I had a nice chat with him. He's not the most talkative young guy, obviously, but 5 games of NHL experience now. It's gone a little quiet for him, just 7 shots on goal for a guy that's a volume shooter. He admits that, it's tougher to find his shots here at this level. And that's not a surprise. Shouldn't be a surprise. I asked him about, what has surprised him in the NHL. And he said, the wall work and just the size, the sheer size of defenders and how time and space just disappears because we're so used to seeing him at all other levels, right? That peel move off the wall, cut to the middle. You can get away with that in junior or in the Swedish league or even in the AHL, but this is the best league in the world. And that shot, that time and space has sort of dried up in a hurry for him. So I'm not sour on him. I mean, I think this is kind of what I expected it would look like for a 20-year-old getting his feet wet. And now you take JT out of the equation. Last night, they played him in a 3rd line capacity, and I understood what we're talking. He's trying to build 2 top lines to go against the Rangers, and unfortunately, Lekkerimäki kind of fell to a 3rd line role with Bluger and Hein, and that's not putting him in the best position to succeed, and obviously missing a couple of big weapons on the power play as well. But 1 goal in 5 games, the goal was great, but other than that, it's been a little bit quiet around him, and if he's in the lineup, he's a candidate at least to provide some offense, but offense has been difficult for a lot of these guys at 5-on-5 over the course of the homestand.
What's the sense that you get as far as how close Boeser could be? Do you think he's a possibility to travel on this road trip? And B, do you think there's even a chance that at some point, maybe further towards the back end of it, that he could be an option to maybe even draw back into the lineup?
Yeah, he skated yesterday. I didn't get the sense that he skated here today. I asked Rick Tocchet about the road trip. And he said that Tocchet was going into a meeting with the training staff here. They were going to determine whether Boeser was coming out on the road with the group or whether he might continue to benefit from treatment here at home and then join the team at some point out on this trip. So, it's and I'll take Tocchet at face value. I don't think he was trying to spin anything. I think he didn't honestly know in that moment. So it sounds like that decision's going to be made here. If I'm a betting man, I would think that it sounds like Boeser still needs some time here to recover fully. So, the fact that he skated yesterday, yes, that's progress. I don't know how that skate went. How did he come through it? Is he feeling okay today? Wasn't around. I didn't see him. He certainly wasn't at practice. And it's going to take a couple of practices before he gets back into game action. They're not going to rush him in this situation. So I think they start the road trip without Brock Boeser and then just kind of play it. As Tocchet's been saying, it really is sort of a day-to-day. Nobody knows. Every concussion is a little bit different. And, you just hope for the best for Boeser. Clearly they miss him. The 6 games on the homestand, they only managed to win 2 of them. So could he have helped along the way? Absolutely. But yeah, my sense is that they may still have to push on here for a few more games without one of their top scorers.
All right, Jeff, great stuff. Thanks so much for doing this from UBC, might we add. Very good stuff. Thanks so much for doing this.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't want to turn around here, but over my left shoulder, I think that's Patrick Johnson and Kevin Woodley in the background. But, this is...
Give them a holler.
No, I'm not going to do that.
Bring him on the show.
I'm in a busy foyer here at the Doug Mitchell Winter Sports Center. So they look like they're hard at work. So we'll leave them be.
Right on, Jeff. Thanks. Appreciate it.
All right, guys.
There he is, Jeff Paterson, the host of Rink Wide Vancouver. You can watch it after every Canucks game on the Rink Wide Vancouver YouTube channel. Almost at the Canucks Army YouTube channel. I wish. They have their own YouTube channel, Rink Wide Vancouver, and you can also download it as a podcast wherever you get your podcasts.